Learned on the fly. Hello, good morning to everyone in the Silicon Slopes in the great state of Utah, or wherever you are in the entire world. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget Domopalooza is coming up. Go to domo.com/domopalooza. That's domo.com/domopalooza. We have a guest today, and we're going to introduce him. I'm going to have Garrett introduce him here in a second. There's actually breaking news. This is the first time I'm reading this right now on air. That I think is be worth. Like the SEC is investigating whether OpenAI investors were misled. And there's like kind of this like horrifying picture of Sam Altman, who kind of looks like a serial killer. Can we say that?
I don't know, but you already
in
did.
this picture. Not generally, just in this picture.
Yeah.
So they're investigating. What do we know about this?
It's kind of just they're a little worried that he wasn't telling the truth or he was hiding information because he was ousted for a short time. So it's basically kind of where there's smoke, there's fire, it seems.
Oh, look at this picture of Sam Altman. What is this? Crazy. That's not even the one I was talking about. Might be more representative of what I was saying. Here's what the Wall Street Journal says the Securities and Exchange Commission is scrutinizing internal communications by OpenAI Chief Executive Sam Altman as part of an investigation into whether the company's investors were misled. The regulator, whose probe hasn't previously been reported, has been seeking internal records from current and former OpenAI officials and directors and sent a subpoena to OpenAI in December, according to people familiar with the matter. That followed the OpenAI board's decision in November to fire Altman as CEO and oust him from the board. At the time, directors said Altman hadn't been consistently candid in his communications but didn't elaborate. And obviously, Altman returned as CEO later. So none of that says anything. The first three paragraphs, may as well stop reading there. I don't know what any of that means.
Consistently candid in his communications is...
No one is consistently candid in our... Whenever you talk to me, I am not consistently candid.
Yeah, but I'm not raising money and trying to raise $7 trillion and trying to get you to do stuff. Of course, I'm never candid with you, but...
When you're like, hey, how you doing, Clint? You are not candid with me.
That is...
You are not candid.
Bluff.
All right, so that's going on. Figured we'd talk about it right at the beginning of the show. Garrett, introduce our wonderful guest. I can't believe you made him sit through that.
That was not me. Let the record show. Andrew Scivally, co-founder and CEO of ELB Learning, is our guest today, and there's going to be a lot of fun stuff to talk about. How are you, Andrew?
Doing well.
Let's just go base layer here and give folks an idea of what ELB Learning does. It's a lot, but if you could summarize it, and then we'll get into the fun stuff.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to really talk about it is with any company, your employees are your greatest asset, right? That's really all that matters. That's what makes it all go around. But many times the training that they get doesn't work, right? It's either boring, ineffective, doesn't hit the spot, they don't remember it, whatever it is, right? And so we are trying to help companies, typically corporations, build learning experiences that make a difference, that can actually unlock that human employee potential. And so we have technology and professional services that we bring together to help companies do that.
I love it. Most people out there listening will have gone through some sort of training or learning. Yep. And, when you're sitting there in the audience and it's PowerPoint slide 509, you start to get very critical.
You do.
Of your colleagues, of the people that are making you do this. And it gets counterproductive, right? It's like, what were they possibly thinking in subjecting us to this? There's better ways. I assume you guys know a lot of those. How do you ultimately conquer you've got people and their personalities and their busyness, and they don't like change quite often, right?
Many don't, yeah.
What do you do to counteract that?
There's a lot you can do up front, right? So what we really talk to a lot of our learning leaders about is you need to look at the business goals, right? Companies have objectives for the year, right? They have certain things they're trying to achieve. Many of those are revenue targets, sales, revenue, whatever it is. So for training to be really effective, first of all, it needs to tie to something that people care about, right? And so if you can really focus in the beginning, figuring out what is the true business objective that I'm trying to solve here, why will the executives care about this? Will they fund it in the future? And if you can tie it to that, then as they're going through that training, they're like, look, this will make a difference for us, right? Now, beyond that, there's all these things around, can you make it more engaging, interactive, and interesting, all of that. Sitting there for an hour listening to a bunch of PowerPoints is not the best way to do that. So there are things around gamification, and so we have a lot of gamification technology. VR is an awesome way to make things more immersive. Has specific use cases, though. Video coaching and interaction, rehearsing different things on platforms, and everyone hates role plays, but guess what? They work, right?
Yeah.
They make you uncomfortable and get in the moment. Things around micro-learning. There's a ton of that going on where it's just in the flow of your work, where micro-learning happens and just in time when you need that. And so there are lots of ways to do that. But again, the biggest one, though, is if you are in that learning experience and you understand how it's making you better at what you do, they've made that connection, and the company says, yeah, that's going to make us money, then you're hitting that sweet spot.
Yeah.
So as I understand it, what you're saying is like, hey, our platform helps you create really great learning experiences inside of it, and kind of has, I see that you have these learning creation studio with the various things that you said. You said like the games and gamification, the virtual reality, course authoring, video coaching. I wonder, like, just for those who may not understand fully what a lot of that means, compare it to something they may understand, like Teachable, like these other like platforms where you can host courses and sell courses, things like that. Maybe even a plural site locally, which is more on the technical side of things. Where do you fit in that?
I think an easy way to explain it is, I like to break it down and say, if you are going to do learning, it's going to happen in one of three ways. You will either build it on your own, you might buy it pre-built off the shelf, or you might bid it out to someone to help you do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's build it, buy it, or bid it. So on the build it side, if you look at PowerPoint, right, and if you had PowerPoint on steroids, that's basically what our technology platform is. So if you want a creation studio where you're like, look, myself or my team likes to build learning for our organization, what if I could have a platform that had the ability to create learning games and gamification, or VR, or do video coaching experiences, or author courses that had this micro-learning kind of website feel, or had templates and assets for all these different images and icons and video clips and all these. That would be on our technology side, where it's just a platform for people to go in and build whatever type of learning content they think is needed in that use case, right? So like one login to do that. All the way to the other side, we don't have libraries of courses. There are companies out there that have libraries, and someone like a plural site would have libraries, LinkedIn Learning, Go1, Open Sesame, Coursera, Udemy, all those guys. So we're cousins to them. We don't build off-the-shelf courseware. But then on the other side, the whole bid it out, we partner with tons of companies who just say, look, I either need to just give you all my classroom stuff and say, man, make it just make it work, or we'll partner with them to do that. So either build it on your own with our tech, or partner with us, and we can use your tech and our tech and build out learning content together.
And then it's published wherever they want.
Wherever they want, right?
Yeah.
We do have a learning management system, but a lot of companies, they have one. And the nice thing in the learning space is everything got centralized around kind of one communication standard many years ago. And so it's all called SCORM. Every learning tool in the world packages things in SCORM, and it works on any learning platform.
Mm-hmm.
So it's super easy to go in and work with companies and use the existing platforms.
Well, how are you thinking about technology now? Because you mentioned VR a couple times now, like the new Apple Vision Pro. How does that fit into things? Have you used that thing? Do you think it's useful?
Yeah. So VR was going crazy, right, a few years back, and all the conferences, everything was VR, VR, VR.
Right.
Then AI hit and screamed so loudly that you can't hear anything else that's going on right now. even though AI is more of a blanket technology that's touching everything, including VR creation tools. But in the VR space, it has, for us, at least what we're seeing, some very specific use cases that are perfect for it in the learning space.
Mm-hmm.
For example, anytime you have something that's a dangerous situation, VR is great, right? You can't die for real in virtual reality.
Right.
So we're seeing that in construction, safety types of things there. Healthcare has been a big one for us. So practicing Vanderbilt Nursing School, when they have one ultrasound machine, but they have tons of people to put through that training, well, you can't go out and buy a few, extra machines that are hundreds of thousands of dollars each. But going into a VR place where I can see the VR machine, or I'm sorry, the ultrasound machine right here, and I can see the monitor. I can look over here and see what's going on with the patient. I can listen to the nurse back here. That was a perfect use case to put them through that and be able to then even click on the patient and see the different organs and see what's going on and all of that. Or to be able to, stick a needle into someone, a fake person,
Right.
and to know how far you need to go or not go, and to be able to feel it like shake. To see a stroke patient having a stroke in front of you and know that it's, they're not actually going to die, but to see those symptoms. And so some really cool use cases. Another one I saw was a sexual harassment course. To be able to put on a headset and look at, this big guy that's 6'3" that's saying things that make me uncomfortable. There's no other way I really would have experienced that.
Yeah.
But
That
I
actually
did in
sounds way
VR.
intense.
I know. I was like, wow, like that makes me feel bad. So yeah, they has some cool stuff that's going on there.
Change management seems like a big part, right? Because
It's huge.
again, when you're subjugated to it, you get kind of mean and snarky. But being empathetic, like the leaders of the business or the organization, the project, they do have goals, and they're probably good goals, right? And they're trying to deliver this to hundreds, if not thousands of people, because they can't do it one-on-one, right? It doesn't scale.
Doesn't scale.
So in the scaling of that, how do you formulate like your strategies or your products as it relates to small groups of people or bigger people? Are there certain things that work better in smaller groups or bigger groups, or is it universal?
Yeah, most of the time people are engaging us is for large groups of employees, and they're typically dispersed, right? So pre-COVID, right, even when I got started in the space over 20 years ago, but it was a lot of just in-classroom stuff going on, right? You can't scale in-classroom very easily. It's expensive to fly everyone in, scale out, or send out facilitators and rent rooms and all that kind of stuff. So where we see the really scales of efficiency and cost savings for online digital learning is all the additional employees that you add in there. The bigger the employee base, the more money you're saving, right?
Yeah.
Pretty tough to spend $100,000 on a course for 10 people, but that same course could go out to 1 million people and pretty much be the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, but it's really changed from being what we called e-learning to just digital learning now.
Yeah.
Right?
Really,
just all
really
over.
just learning.
Yeah, it's just,
in a
well,
lot of
and good
ways,
point
right?
is there's so much learning, but now there's so many different flavors of things, and mixing it in with podcasts like this, right? This is learning. Happens to be digital, but you could easily put this into small cohorts. You could do it through coaching exercises and mentoring, or you could go all the way to watching this as a video or just the audio component. And so learning has changed a ton in the past, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. The change management, I feel like is going to be changing daily, monthly, weekly here with AI, right? I think there's a genuine fear from a lot of people, white collar, that their jobs might not exist or will be impacted in the next 10 seconds to 10
Right.
years, right?
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that from an overall, perspective? And then I'm assuming you guys are pretty dialed in on it from a business perspective.
Their jobs will absolutely be impacted. I mean, there's no way around it.
Yeah.
Everything.
Everybody's going to be impacted.
Every single thing. Our space has been impacted massively already. And, think about it. We do a lot of content creation, right? So AI content generation is happening, and it's happening better every single week. I mean, it's not taking a year to get there. And so, I mean, we're in the middle of our rapid, our micro builder tools, we're calling them. They're just creating courses. You're putting in, saying, hey, give me an outline for this, give me content for this, and it's just spitting out courses. Doesn't mean they're great, doesn't mean they're interactive yet and all of that. But just the baseline for how quickly you can get up to speed now is amazing. And so I get people are scared of it. I'm not. I love change, actually. I think maybe many entrepreneurs do. If things aren't changing, I get bored fairly quickly. But in that moment of change, that's where a ton of learning happens. And so for us, we look for any company that has a lot of change happening. That means they've got new products, systems rolling out. They have new mandates coming from the management team. They have new goals in place. Like, there are lots of opportunities in there. So in the AI space, we see it that way, right? There's tons of training. So one client we're allowed to talk about is Rakuten. Rakuten, a huge Japanese-based technology company.
Humongous company.
Yeah, right? And I always get them on my website, right? And I save money and all this stuff with them. Okay, so they came to us to help with their AI training. And I'm like, you're a Japanese-based technology company. I thought you would have this all under control. And they're like, what's happening is we all have jobs. And so their whole management team knows they need to be better at understanding what's happening, but they have a job to get done every day.
Mm-hmm.
They need help to get up to speed quickly and to help us connect all the dots really quickly because they're so focused on their job. And so we're doing a lot of foundational level training there, saying, hey, this is what it's all about. And sometimes they're scared to ask. They're like, I should know this. And am I the only guy that doesn't know this?
Mm-hmm.
And so just getting that foundational training in there and then starting to connect the dots and saying, let's talk about your job and let's build out proof of concept and actually, figure out how to tackle things. But tons of opportunity that AI is creating. Like, I get to be scared, but it's the biggest thing we've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah, there's no point in being scared.
No.
And you may as well just, that's
You will
it,
be assimilated.
right?
Right?
But yeah, you'll
It's
figure
happening.
it out. How far away do you think we are from literally just typing into a chat bot every aspect of a course and it produces it and it feels the exact same way that it would had a human created it all?
Depending on the level of interactivity, we're pretty darn close to what I would call level 1 stuff.
Yeah.
Just kind of like PowerPoint, right? You can create a PowerPoint type course pretty darn quickly with AI now. And, but the higher levels of gamifying that and creating a VR simulation, all that, that's going to take some time. But the stuff that's coming out is just mind blowing. So I think it's a matter of how will AI know the actual business objective that you're trying to tie that to, measure the results and do all of that. So I think the tech will be there. That I think it's up to companies like us to try to tie it all together and point it in the right direction.
You've got a master's degree in computer education and cognitive systems. Cognitive systems is the study of what?
Brain, the way you think.
And going back to when you were getting that, how much of what you learned is still applicable and how much was nonsense?
Well, there's still these taxonomies, right, about different ways to learn different things through repetition or through actual hands-on application and all that. I don't think humans have changed that much, right? And actually, an interesting thing I heard the other day, there are these levels of Kirkpatrick's learning, right, where it's just basic smile sheets. Hey, did you like the learning and all that? And going all the way up to how much did you engage and can you show what happened during the learning? Are you getting results and all these different things? But an interesting study that's coming out now is that, and maybe they're exaggerating a little bit for eyeballs and clickbait, but the thing that they're saying matters the most right now is just your perception of the learning. That smile sheet, like, did you like the course? And we always thought, that's just a throwaway. Hey, did you like it? Whatever. But there's a power in, did that course create a defining moment for you? Did you enjoy it? If you enjoy it, you're engaged and you will actually take that learning and try to process that and put that into your long-term memory, right?
Yeah.
So I think creating those moments in learning where what's in it for me? Did it engage you? Did it create that that connection where you're like, you know what, I'm interested in this. I get why I should learn it. And that simple piece there seems right now to be the most powerful thing that we're finding.
With all the different ways people learn, you mentioned previously a little bit of micro learning. You've got to get them to absorb it, right? And people have various degrees of being able to memorize things and apply it. Little reminders along the way of, maybe it's some sort of production in a consumer goods, and they keep making the same mistakes 2 months after the training, which would be frustrating for the people that came up with the course and the goals and the. How can you kind of have guardrails or a sheepdog to kind of keep herding them after the training?
Yeah. Ultimately, for many types of learning and training, the best way to do it is in the flow of your work, right?
Yeah.
So right when you need the training, that's the best time to get it, and to just tell you what you need right now to figure out where you're going. So you'll hear a lot of in the flow of work for learning. You'll hear just in time, kind of the same thing, right? So if you're in a moment right now and I'm having a difficult conversation with an employee and it's a performance thing, right as I go into that conversation is when I really need to brush up on, okay, how do I coach this person? So if you can't get just in time, then of course, having your more traditional type setting could be great. But what we're seeing a lot of as well is just those follow-up, I guess we could call them like kind of ticklers, right? Where it's, hey, you learned all of this, but putting some type of regular cadence into these touch points afterward are super powerful. Just helping you try to recall it. Once you recall something, then you have a lot better chance of trying to put that into your long-term memory. So that's a massive strategy in most training courses is what's the follow-up to that? How are you gonna kind of drip that learning out?
Yeah, because it's frustrating to go through a training and then they're like, all right, problems are solved, everyone. We'll see you again in a year when we're going to do something new. You should have retained all of it.
They don't.
Godspeed.
Yeah, no, you don't remember all of that.
Yeah.
So,
you guys are private equity backed now, correct?
correct.
And have been doing some growth through mergers and acquisitions. So on the business side, what's the strategy behind that? How do you guys look at companies or founders and decide they'd be a good fit?
So for us, we've acquired 6 companies in roughly the past 3 years.
Wow.
We did a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
It's been a big lift.
Yeah, that's probably been a lot of your time.
We had a plan. So we'd run the company for about 10 years, just bootstrapped. Got to a point where the product was just slowing down. Growth was getting a lot harder. We'd been on the Inc. 500 and 5,000, many years in a row. And we just got to a spot where it was like, okay, we owned that space that we were in. It was an e-learning template space. We kind of created the space, and everyone that wanted templates in their products were either using us or had created their own. And so it was just kind of getting commoditized a bit. And we were trying to figure out, well, what's next? Do we sell the company? Do we just keep operating it and just gradually kind of let the revenues go down, but just get efficient with that and pull the cash out? What do you do? And so the idea that we had was, what if we could expand and own the ecosystem? Instead of just one part, what if we could expand all the pieces around, expand to that and own that piece and become a bigger player? And so we, for a good year, I was working with different private equity firms trying to piece it all together. And then this thing I had it all ready to close in March of 2020.
That's a bad time.
I know. And then this pandemic thing hit. I said, are you kidding me? Like, I've worked for over a year getting this thing done, and now a stupid worldwide pandemic's going to stop us. And so, but sales did well that month. And then in April, we closed the transaction, and we acquired 2 companies, pulled the 3 together. I think we were probably the only PE activity and acquisition that happened during that month of April. We had all the things planned to go on site and do all these great events with the employees, and obviously none of that worked. But then we continued to acquire companies for the next couple of years. And really strange for our PE group. They had never acquired companies that they hadn't visited on site before and met the management teams and been in their facilities.
That is weird.
And so they're like, we don't do this. I'm like, well, I don't know what else you want to do. But when I'm looking for companies, for us, I knew these companies. These were founder-led companies, except for one of them. I knew them. Some of them we had partnered with. I'd built friendships with them. I had talked about this idea of coming together and owning this ecosystem. And they were all on board. And so that was part of the way that I guess the PEs got comfortable was, hey, I've seen the facility. They're real people. I've seen the employees. So they said, okay, Andrew, I guess if you've seen them. And so a lot of these founders are still on the executive team. They've come on board. They're still, they still have ownership in there. So it's been interesting.
And I imagine each of them like brought a product or a client base, or like was the idea around acquiring companies more to like improve the product? Really kind of,
it was,
what was the overall strategy?
We weren't going vertically in any product or service. It was really a horizontal ecosystem play.
Yeah.
Where one company had a learning game builder and gamification platform. One was around VR and learning, right? Then a learning management system and custom services or staff augmentation with learning professionals. So bringing all of that together. 6 of the companies are here in the States. 1 is in India. So we were able to acquire a learning company that had been around for a long time out there. And so now we've spent lots of time now doing full integration. So one brand, integrated financial platforms, one CRM for marketing, sales, customer success, everything on the project management side. There's 150 to 200 projects going on at any moment, and having all of that into one platform where we have some visibility. So this is really our first year, starting a year where it's fully integrated.
Cool.
Sales team and all of that.
Yeah, that's cool. What makes a great course? Because you've seen, you provide all the tools, but I mean, when somebody gets through, and I imagine you don't watch all these courses or take all the courses, that would be impossible. But what have you found that makes a great course versus doesn't make a great course?
I think it's that engagement piece, right? Going in there, and no one wants to just read a bunch of stuff or just listen to a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Which, side note, is really interesting why we still go through university doing things that most of us don't like. But it's that engagement. So is there something in there that is interesting to me? And again, it needs to be a topic that I think is relevant. What we're seeing as well with the younger generations, like we have a workforce now that has the most generations ever that are actively working, and they're massively different, right? And so you have these older employees who think very differently than the young ones. But what we're seeing for the younger generations coming in, what makes a good course for them is they want to feel like they make an impact in the business, right? They want someone to help them understand and teach them the skills so they can add and they can, have that impact, make a difference, be in there and know that they are, they're building a better company. They want to be developed. I know we always hear it's not always about the money and all of that. But studies continue to show that it's not always about the money. It's about, are you helping me improve?
Mm-hmm.
Do I feel like I come in here every day and I matter? Those are the big drivers. And the older generations, and even my generation, back in the day, it was like, hey, here's your training, here's your stuff, suck it up, buttercup, and just do it.
Yep.
People don't want that anymore. They want to understand why. They want to understand, like, how is this going to make me better? Like, what can I contribute to the company?
Mm.
And trying to get all those generations to understand, like, that's not a selfish thing. It's a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah. What types of learning do you particularly enjoy the most and have the most impact on you after building this company and knowing a lot about how to do this? How do you learn?
I love podcasts. I listen to tons of podcasts. And so I really I don't enjoy taking a chunk of my time, like a half day or a day, and actually having to do just that. I really enjoy micro types of things. So podcasts are perfect. This, when I have time types of things, when I'm driving, when I'm on a plane or something like that. I'm also learning, and maybe it's just in my position now, we're realizing that as the company has gotten 5 times bigger in 3 years, and so going from, 50-ish employees to like 500 employees, it's a big difference, and everything in your business changes. Like the structure, like your process, how you do finance, right? How you manage projects. None of that was ready for that type of scale. And I've never been a CEO of a company that size. And at a certain point, you don't know, you don't really know what it takes to be that. And will I be able to get there? And will I be able to go past that? Or like, where's my sweet spot?
Mm-hmm.
And so on the learning side, I found in my position right now, really that one-on-one mentorship has been great, and really connecting with a lot of other people who are in similar situations, and being able to have that brainstorming type of session has been good for me.
Yeah.
And less structured learning.
Yeah. I'm interested, and this might be where we can talk a little bit about that rising star out of India. There's different countries and different cultures, right? And different ways that people learn, and different hierarchies. Outside of the United States, what are some striking differences in the way cultures or different groups of people learn?
I don't know if I have a ton of data on how different cultures are learning. I think at the end of the day, we're all driven by, again, this desire to be engaged. We always want to. What we do see, for example, with our India team, they like content and even a leadership style for the most part. I mean, this is obviously a generalization here, but that's more structured, right? A lot of just tell me the exact steps that you're expecting for this to be done. Where sometimes in the States we push back on that. It's like, hey, I want to be more creative, innovative. I want to kind of think outside of the box. That's been something we've actively had to speak with our India management team. I want you to think outside of the box, right? Take ownership, question me on stuff. It's not a norm there typically to question the CEO and ask, well, why are we doing that? Or is that exactly right? But we expect that here, right? Most of the time we're not expecting blind, sheep just to follow us. That's not how it works. But yeah, no, it's been phenomenal. I will say that it's taken us quite a while to figure out how to integrate international teams. It's not easy.
Yeah, that must be hard.
I've heard something like 10 times, and I finally understand why they keep saying that to me. I'm like, oh, that makes sense now. Sorry, I didn't catch it the other 9 times.
Yeah.
And so it's just a lot of being open and try not to just force what you think is just logical.
Yeah.
Logical doesn't mean right all the time.
This might sound like a pretty naive question, but I don't know that I've ever understood this. How do you even buy a foreign company?
So if you ever want to buy anything in India, expect that it's going to take 10 times longer than what you thought it would. So it's just, getting our legal firm involved. And so there are a lot of hoops to jump through, different entities there, and they had an entity in the U.S. as well, and looking at where the clients and contracts are actually owned. Are they owned through a U.S. entity or in India? And trying to get assets and cash out of there and taxes. And there's a lot to look at there, but it was all run by our legal firm who, I'm assuming they have a lot of experience because they sure charge like they do. So, but yeah, and so we have, for example, we have an India entity. I'm on that board, so we have board meetings with India, but it's very regulatory kind of feel and things. You go through an ID process out there of verifying who you are. We get to do a wet signature on 500 pages of financials a couple times a year to send back over to the Indian government. There are different ways of how you hire employees, how you let go of an employee, or how they, the different types of leaves they can have. And there's a lot of interesting things there. But that's the only one we work in is India. I don't know.
Yeah.
I bet each one's completely different.
A lot
Which
of holidays
country?
over there too.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, why aren't we working today? What holiday is it?
Yeah.
Okay, thought we had one last week.
I feel that way about like President's Day recently. I was like, what? I like coming to the office like no one's here. I'm like, President's Day.
I was here. We did a podcast. We don't
Yeah,
have
you
the
were
banking
here.
holidays. But would you like to talk really quick about Rising Star?
Yes, I would love to. Rising Star Outreach. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but it's an organization that we work with a lot with our company. But Rising Star Outreach their goal is to eradicate leprosy, and a lot of the team is based here out of Utah. So Brett Kaywood is their CEO and president. He's here actually in Provo, and again, the goal of eradicating leprosy. There's over 900 leprosy colonies in India. It's still happening, right? And a lot of us think this is just a thing from biblical times.
Yeah.
And but it's completely curable. I mean, it's like a vaccine, and it's not contagious or any of that. So what's happening though is anytime a family member gets this over there, obviously they're kicked out of their area. They have to go in these colonies. Their children are kicked out of school, and that's really where we come in. So there's a large school outside of Chennai, India, where we have our building. And we sponsor 2 of the high school classrooms there. We built out a media lab. We do tech support, mentoring. We read with some of these students in the evenings. We get on, and my kids are reading to them as well, and all of this. And so we really love the organization, and they have deep, deep Utah connections. And one of my daughters is actually going out there this summer to help run their volunteer program, where they bring families through and they get to go to leprosy colonies and visit the schools and do all that. So yeah, anytime we're out there, we try to hit the school and go do field day and go to their Diwali celebration. And they love firecrackers. They call them crackers. So crackers and Coke. They don't have enough money, usually have a soda. They're like, can we have Coke and crackers? And
Yeah.
just doing fun things with the students out there. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well done.
That'll keep you kind of centered, right? I'm sure your daughter's going to learn a lot.
I've taken 4 of my kids to India with me when I go out there. I have 9 kids total. So I take kind of as they get older, I can sort of take them with me. But it's a wonderful organization where we're in the education space, and we have a large presence right near their school. So the ability to go in and help with that education and mentoring and putting our female executives in India to be able to go on site and show them that you can be Indian and a female and successful, that's really big for them. Those girls don't see that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Andrew, thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming on and talking to us. That was fascinating. We're following the Sam Altman story. A little throwback from the beginning. We're not following
No,
it.
we're not following it.
We don't care. All right, we'll see everybody Monday. Who do we got Monday?
John Fisher, CEO of Mingle.
CEO of Mingle.
Yep.
Very cool. Okay, see everybody Monday. Have a
Thank
good
you,
weekend.
Andrew.
Thanks, everyone.